Western Cape, our reporter Vannessa Poonah was at one of the IEC's Cape offices at Bellville, and this is what she reported for us.
As the final voter registration weekend gets underway across the country here at the IEC offices in the Western Cape, a number of staff members that are busy collating and connecting the rest of the province are hard at work, fielding phone calls, etc. We know that in the Western Cape alone, over 1,500 voting stations are open today, and of course where unregistered voters as well as registered voters can go and have a look to see whether they indeed will be eligible to vote in the general election come May. Now, joining me is the IEC Provincial Commissioner here in the Western Cape, Courtney Sampson. A very warm good morning to you. Courtney, of course, this election billed as probably one of the most important since democracy, and yet we see that there is an issue with the high numbers, millions of unregistered voters. And of course, this weekend really is the IEC saying to the electorate out there, please make your voice heard.
Indeed, I'm the Provincial Electoral Officer for the Western Cape, Vannessa. Yeah, I think that what we would really like to see as the IEC is to make sure that we provide the facility for South African citizens to come and register as voters, because the only time that you can vote is if your name appears on the voters' roll. And the only way in which you get your name onto the National Common Voters' Roll is to come to registration. So we really want to make a special call on those South African citizens who are not yet registered to come out. Let me just take it back a little bit and say that the law says that the South African citizen must come to the IEC to register. So what we do over weekends such as these, just to give it a bit of perspective, is to say let's make it more accessible to people to register as voters. And let's use the voting stations that we usually have and make them registration points so that we are with and closer to communities and people don't have to travel such long distances to get to the registration point. Our particular call is on young people to participate in this process. To get themselves registered, you only need to have a green barcoded ID, a smart card, or a temporary identification certificate.
Let me stop you there, Mr. Sampson. Your call is for young people to come out, and you know the statistics are staggering with the number of young people in South Africa aged between 18 and 34, 35 who are not registered to vote. Now we have got a plethora of political parties in the country. In the Western Cape alone, 106 political parties. I think nationally something like 600 registered political parties. Why then are young people battling to find a political home, if one can call it that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Look, I think just for clarification, 600 would be those parties that are registered nationally, and then also those who are registered in the provinces together. But the parties that are registered nationally are 285 thereabouts and climbing, and in the Western Cape about 106 and climbing. So I think that's where we are at the moment. At the same time, there are only 13 parties represented in the National Assembly and 4 in the provincial legislature. So while it looks like we've got many, we are still yet to find out how many of those parties are actually going to contest the election. I think the issue of young people. I believe that there are so many things that occupy the minds of young people that we're really struggling to get to the point where we are going to interest millennials in a process such as registering as a voter. What we've tried to do is to go online in terms of changing your address. You can change online. We've opened the SMS thing for people who have already registered to see where they are registered. There's this. There is also the toll-free number 0800 11 8000. But I think that yesterday I got a question from one of the millennials that said, why in this digital age is it still necessary for me to go out of my house to go and register as a voter when I can do it here? So I think that's the really challenge that we have in terms of making sure that we speak to the heart of young people. Our whole campaign as the IEC to get people to register as voters was designed by young people, for young people, and by young people, you know. So I think it's what we're hoping will happen. As a South African nation and as a society, we really need the contribution of young people. It's a digital age in which we live, you know. So I think we don't often understand that digital age. So if we're going to create an environment, a society where we are going to feel safe, unthreatened, and we are at work, we are going to need all the contribution we can have, and the role of young people can never be underestimated.
When we talk about processes this morning, and we're going to sort of close with that question here in Cape Town, in the Western Cape, we know that there are over 1,500 stations where people can go and register to vote. Can you tell us what the process has been like? Has there been, for example, any upsets, any hiccups, be it challenges from the IEC side or from the communities themselves?
There are always hiccups in an operation of this magnitude. There's one or two cases where the area manager just was a little bit tardy. But most of the cases that we struggled with this morning were community protests. And I'm happy to say that the stations are active at the moment. And I think that it's important that people make use of those opportunities where we are able to just say, we are here, come and do your thing with registration for the first time. Alternatively, just come and check your details and make sure that that is correct.
Thank you very much. Of course, Courtney Sampson there just telling us about the process this morning at the over 1,500 voting centres around the province, and also talking about the importance of having young people, young South Africans come out to register to vote in the national elections.